Hi everybody. So I saw a comment where someone was asking about the shortcut keys and wanting to know a little bit more about them. So I figured I'd make a quick video and we'll jump straight into it. So I recommend trying to get down the base ones first, just the ones that you would use more often. And I'll try to give you those. And then as you get used to that and it becomes second nature, then you can pick up on some other ones. With that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to put a block in here. And standard size is 20 by 20 by 20, and for our purposes that's fine. Let's learn a little bit about the mouse before we get to the actual keystrokes themselves. So if you want to, if you're looking at your work plane and you want to zoom into it, you just use your mouse wheel. Zoom in, zoom out, easy peasy. If you want to rotate, use your hold your right mouse button and circle around. You can circle and look under it, see what's above it on all sides. And then of course your left button is used to select objects or multiple objects, whatever the case may be. Okay, so first of all, movement. Let's focus on movement. So your arrows and your shift arrows are going to be, your most common. So if you want to nudge something over, just select that one object, and you can use your arrow keys up, down, left, right to move that and place it wherever you want to. Now remember, the degree to which that moves is going to be determined by this right here. Yeah, so you go from 0.1 to 5 millimeters. Right now I've got it set to 1, which is the default, and you can change that, by the way, if you prefer. And you can move that. Now that only gets you 2 dimensions, left, right, forward, and backward. What you'll notice though is if you hold your control key down and use your up and down arrows, you can move in that 3rd dimension. So that's pretty easy. And don't forget, if you get stuck up in the air and you can't remember how to get it down, and you don't want to fiddle with this and figure out, just hit your D key to drop it to the base plane. Okay. Another note about your shift key. My snap grid is set to 1 millimeter, so every time I hit the left arrow, it's going to move 1 millimeter. If I hold my shift key down while I'm hitting that arrow, it's going to move tenfold, so 10 millimeters. Or obviously, if I have it set to 0.1, it's going to move 1 millimeter. So that's just a, if you really want to move it quickly, get to where you want, let up off of your shift, and then fine tune. So that's a neat little trick. Okay, so that is your movement. Alright, so duplicate. If you want to duplicate something, now I've noticed that a lot of people will say replicate, duplicate, and in a lot of senses it's the same thing, but for these purposes I'm going to stick with duplicate to make a copy of an object. I'll reserve replicate to let's say move along a path, like along the circumference of a circle. I think it's just a little less confusing if we kind of adopt the same language. Alright, so if you hit Control D, that's going to duplicate the object that is selected, or objects. So I just duplicated that cube. Now if I hold my shift key down with that selected and select another one and hit Control D, everything that's selected is going to get duplicated. Okay, now the work plane. I'll talk real briefly about the work plane, and I'll talk more about it later. But it's something you eventually will use a good bit. Right now, the base plane is the plane that we're working off of. So when you click and you drag something, it's going to place it on that base plane. But what if I want to do something a little trickier, like say put this cube on top of this cube? Well, I could use the work plane to place it anywhere I want it. I'll just show you. It's easier if I show you. I'm going to hit W for the work plane. Incidentally, you can click this as well. I'm going to hit W, and the cursor will change. And anywhere that I want to place that is what I make the base plane. So I'm going to make it on top of this cube. Okay? And it changes. You'll see this orange colored plane. You can see this is the old base plane. This is the new base plane. I'm going to take that cube and I'm going to hit D to drop it right on top of the new work plane. Okay, so you'll see if you hold this steady here and get it even, hey, guess what? It lined it up right on top. If I want to take these cubes and align them in such a way, I can hit the L key. Now, if I don't hit anything, if I just look at the handles that it gives me, you'll kind of see those outlines of what it's going to do. It's going to bring that left one in and the right one in, and it's going to meet in the middle like so. You'll notice if I hover over one of the objects that's selected, these new dots will appear. Okay, so in this case, I want to align this cube to this. All right, so when I clicked it, those dots right around there got dark. So that tells me, okay, if I click these handles, it's going to align. This box will align to this one. Also, use this icon. The mirror right next to it. I'm going to hit M. If I want to do that, it'll give me a little outline to show me a preview. All right, these you don't see much of a change, but obviously this one you will, and you hit that. A lot of times you'll use that in conjunction with, you'll actually duplicate an item and then mirror the duplicated item. So I would Control D to duplicate, and then I would M to mirror just the new item. There we go. Okay, we're going to move on to solids and holes, and to be honest, these keys don't really make it very much quicker, but the keys are S and H. You could also select the object, come up here and hit solid or hole, and to be honest, most of the time I'll just click. But if you choose to, H for hole, S for solid, and you see what it does here. Now, a lot of times, even if you don't want something to be a hole, it's very useful to turn it into a hole if you're trying to nudge it up against something. So for instance, if I want to put these two together, and for whatever reason I didn't want to use the align tool, believe me, it does happen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move it as close as I can, but even when it gets close, it's a little bit difficult to tell if you're up on it, if you're not, and then you feel like you have to go here to the side. There's a little bit better way. If it's transparent, watch the color of the solid box as I get closer. Oh, look at there. See, it gets kind of patchy. It kind of hatches like that. That means you are right up on it, and that is the point of contact. Now, if you go one past it, it'll turn solid. And that's okay if that's what you're looking for, but if you just want it to mate up, look for that cross hatch, and that's your key. Now, once you get it positioned where you'd like, you can hit S to turn it back into a solid, or you can just hit the S button. Okay, so those are the very basics that I would recommend that people would run through and use. They're going to be really common. So again, that's your arrows and your shift arrows, your Control D for duplicate, your D for drop, W to move your work plane. Did I mention Control G? If I want to group these things, I just select them both, or all three, or four, or however many, and hit Control G, and that groups them into one solid unit. Okay, A for align, M for mirror, and then H or S for a solid or a hole. All right, I hope that wasn't too scattered, guys. I'm really not putting a whole lot of effort into writing this script. I'm just kind of playing this off the hip since it's just our little community, and I appreciate you overlooking that and giving me a little bit of grace there. Okay, thanks a lot, and I hope that this was helpful.